Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And today, it's Friday, and usually that means the weekend preview. But to be honest with you, there wasn't that much to talk about in terms of previewing stuff this weekend, but instead we've got quite a few more interesting in-depth topics to talk about, including the big news story right now, Kazuchika Okada leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling in what, is a huge news story to kick off what looks to be a wild 2024. It's going to be a fun show. I've had a few days off this week because on Monday, it was my anniversary with my girlfriend. On Wednesday, it was my girlfriend's birthday. Biggest mistake I ever made, asking her to be my girlfriend the same week as her birthday. Very expensive week for me. But I'm now back. I'm back in action until tomorrow when there's a party going on. Oh, but I come back last night. I enter Wrestling Republic's group chat and it's World War III. World War III has broken out about AEW's bloated roster, or if it's not bloated, we're going to be talking about that too, and of course, we're talking TNA Impact later on in the show, because it returned last night, and there was certainly some good stuff on that show. But without further ado, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. Clark, how are you?
What is going on? I'm stoked to be here. I was stoked to get to witness TNA last night. That was a fun one. Speaking of getting to witness, I believe one of the other people on this show was actually at that card. I'm not gonna spoil it, however, this time though. Wouldn't do that. Not today. Not today, because I cannot wait to get into that AEW bloated roster topic. I just can't wait.
Absolutely. No, it certainly is gonna get heated. We've got a few comments here. We've got my girlfriend, Melissa, in the chat. Shout out, Melissa. We've also got Numero 1 Superfly. Hello. And we've got Ignacio in the chat who's saying, how about we talk about a real return? The return of Ignacio. Could Ignacio be coming back soon? I certainly hope so. And we've got Bobby Petito saying that Nyla Rose is going after Athena's Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. I'm certainly interested to see that. But next, let me introduce the man who Clark just teased. The man who was at the Impact Wrestling taping and saw the show we're reviewing later on live. Carter, how are you today?
Ben, well, I have the AEW roster open, and it says Samoa Joe's the champion, so I couldn't be better. No, I just got out of training for ADCC with my team. We are ready. They beat the crap out of me. We're doing good. And, Ben, I'm looking at these topics, and I have some opinions that you will not agree with. But also remember, Okada and Taurus, you'll notice something. Right before signing with AEW, who were they hanging out with? Yours truly.
Cardi.
I don't want to say I'm changing the industry, but you will notice these wrestlers take photographs with me, and the next week they're signed with Mr. Tony Khan. So,
yeah, he's got the rub.
Well, thanks a lot, because now in the comments of all these reviews where they say we're AEW marks and we're on AEW's payroll, well, now that speculation's only going to get worse. Now that Carter is secretly recruiting for Tony Khan. We got Melissa in the comments saying, I think she meant to say but she actually said AEW. So,
I think she meant AEW.
You mark. But also joining us last but certainly not least, we have the man who knows all about tables, the host of Take It to the Table, Chaos. How are you today?
What's up, everybody? I am here trying to warm up in this freezing cold. I don't know how it is in London, but down Wales is an absolute ice cold craziness dumpster fire. Anyway, Yeah, how I'm doing? I'm doing quite well on a high because since the last episode of Take It to the Table dropped with the top 10 best pay-per-views of the year. Been getting some good reviews as well. Yeah, I look forward to obviously dropping the worst pay-per-views of 2023. So be sure to look out for that. But until then, we're here to talk about everything that's happening in the world of wrestling as well as TNA as well. So I'm looking forward to this and seeing who I'm going to jump on with their crazy thoughts on the subject. So let's get straight to it.
Absolutely, and we got a comment from Ignacio saying that if that's the case, Carter, that you're recruiting for Tony Khan, stop taking pictures with them because you're ruining their careers, Carter. It's all your fault. Carty Carnett is fuming. But now let's move on. Let's talk about Kazuchika Okada, now a free agent. New Japan put out a statement last night saying that he has decided he is leaving New Japan, and he's leaving New Japan when his contract expires on January 31st. Now, it's not clear if that day he can wrestle for another company, or if he's got to wait until February 1st to be able to do that. But either way, he's not appearing at the Royal Rumble because the Royal Rumble, I think, is on the 30th. So, yeah, that unfortunately could not happen. We can't hear that coin drop at the Royal Rumble. But could we see him in WWE? That's the question. Could we see him in AEW? Could we see him in TNA? There's a lot of different options right now, and I think, those three are the most likely. TNA, I reckon they're going to do everything they can to try and get him, but I don't think it's going to be enough because I believe Tony Khan is going to just very simply outbid anybody. He's a big Okada fan. In fact, he's a huge Okada fan. I think he'll do everything, and I mean absolutely everything, to get that man on their roster. I honestly think he'll just give him a blank check and say, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. I genuinely...
Richie Rich.
I genuinely think whatever WWE or anybody else offers Okada, Tony Khan will outbid them. Like he'll just keep going up, right? If WWE was smart, maybe they just give Okada an $8 million, will offer him an $8 million deal, just so Tony Khan can give him 9. But then again, it's basically a bottomless pit of money over in AEW, so that's probably not a concern anyway. But I do think Tony Khan's going to put in the biggest offer for him. But the question is, could WWE put in an offer which is maybe close to that, with AEW just outbidding him, but WWE offering Okada maybe, a WrestleMania Night 1 main event, maybe a Money in the Bank victory next year, something like that. Because at the end of the day, it is something to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. It is something to wrestle at a WrestleMania. And I do think that those are the 2 points which WWE are going to have to, really use to their advantage in these negotiations with Okada. Because I think money-wise, I think Tony Khan is winning. But Clark, where do you think Kazuchika Okada will be signing come February?
Not to be full Jerry Maguire here, but show me the money. He's going to get paid in the shade. Wherever he does go, I had a lot of good notes and things to say, but interestingly, I do have to shout out one of our reviewers, Austin Knight, had an idea that even I hadn't thought of. What if he starts his own promotion in Japan? Why not? Okada's name is big enough. If he gets the financial backing, why not? Maybe still works in AEW and TNA, likely not WWE in this scenario, but why not? It is not the worst idea I've ever heard. That's not my idea, so I can't take full credit for it. Shout out Austin Knight. My belief, he's going to AEW. I hear all of the stuff about WWE and it makes sense and da-da-da-da. We're going to get into the rosters both being bloated. What is Okada going to either do that doesn't have him entering a bloated roster? We've talked about the main event scene already at WrestleMania 40 that was set in stone for over a year. And oh my goodness. And now there's a number of challengers. We've got 4 in the fatal 4-way with Roman Reigns. We've got, The Rock looming in the background. And that story we were supposed to finish whatever it was. What did you guys want to talk about? I'm just saying, at the end of the day here, for Okada, it's going to be where he wants to go and what he wants to do. And it's going to have to satisfy his own personal situation. But that Brinks truck is going to be backed up wherever it is. My personal pick is still AEW, but I really do actually appreciate and like the idea of him starting his own Japanese promotion. If he'd like to stay in Japan, that makes a lot of sense to me.
It's one of those things where I think, I mean, you never know, but politically it would be, I mean, I don't know if I can see it happening. If I'm being completely honest here, I don't think he could go anywhere else in Japan after what New Japan have done for him. I mean, there was rumors, of course, the last time his deal was up that he was going to leave the company, and then suddenly there was a meeting between New Japan and Okada, and everything was sorted out. But I mean, it will certainly be interesting to, see what happened. You mentioned, WrestleMania. Maybe that's a possibility, but AEW, I agree with you. I think is the most likely destination for the Rainmaker himself. But Chaos, what about you? Where do you think we'll see the Rainmaker showing up come February 2024?
Probably GCW. No, I'm joking. I'm playing. I'm totally playing. So yeah, I think the imagine that. Jesus Christ.
That'd be wild.
That'd be so weird. But yeah, in all honesty, and jokes aside, I think the likely destination in AEW is that's where it's going to be. The simple fact is that if he did go to WWE, whilst that would be interesting to the everyday fan, if he debuted, say if he was able to debut on Royal Rumble, maybe like an episode of Raw, I think that obviously the response is going to be very timid. He's not going to get that kind of response, the right response that he's going to get. Not many people know him. Only us hardcore fans know him. And WWE's fan base is mostly casual fans and kids. So sure, he's a household name in Japan. Over here, it's not as such, especially in WWE. With AEW now, there's more hardcore fans that know a lot of other promotions, and they know obviously the crossover potential. So I think just for that, and instead of starting from, there's a chance of him starting from scratch in WWE, when realistically, what we know, he shouldn't. They start from scratch in WWE. Like he should be up there with AJ Styles and all them kind of people. But yeah, I think the safest bet for him and momentum's sake would be AEW. Everyone can say that the roster's bloated, but if you have an opportunity to sign someone as big as him, jump right at it. So yeah, I think it's safest bet with him. I don't think he's going to get lost in the shuffle. I think he would do just fine because of how they've treated him so far in the appearances in AEW. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that is a good point, and we'll get onto the roster thing later on. But yeah, one thing I want to quickly say about the Okada specifically is, yes, you're right. If you have somebody like an Okada, like a Will Ospreay come along, you need to get them, right? But I also think that means is they need to replace someone, and somebody needs to go. But we'll be getting on that later on. But Carter, of course, you're taking credit for this. You're saying that you scouting for Mr. Tony Khan means that he's heading to AEW. That true?
Of course. I mean, of course, Ben. So Clark mentioned something. I did a little research on the side. There was another Japanese wrestler, I believe female, Unagi Sayaka. She recently ran her own promotion, single event, was very successful, but I do not think, I think wrestler run promotions are great. PWG, in my opinion, #1 promotion in the world. But Okada he can't do that. I don't think. I think if he did it, it would be like a one-off event, and it would be great. I fully encourage wrestlers like that, because what Super Dragon and Excalibur did was amazing. But I think he's going to AEW. This is me being selfish. I think he's got all the best matches in the world there. He doesn't have to change his style. He doesn't have to go in the Performance Center for 2 months like Jade Cargill. I mean, let's just go here. Do you want to see him doing some goofy stuff like the WWE has Akira Tozawa doing?
It wouldn't be the same thing.
When he was in New Japan, I mean, he was took him so much more seriously. So I just kind of, me personally, I would like to see him in I will call it the more adult, more serious company with the more serious, more adult ownership, especially in regards to his tweets. But no, and I also saw on Twitter some people were sad about, him. They feel like New Japan's losing a lot of people. New Japan to me has so much history. I mean, Inoki's grandson's being trained. He's right now with Shibata. That's going to be a hell of a prospect. So, I mean, New Japan is as small as the roster might get. You have some really solid stables still there to this day, and I think they can build on their brand no matter what. And but you know what? I'm going DDT. Screw it. He's going to DDT.
What? I love it.
I mean, honestly, you are right about New Japan.
Or go to DDT, Carter. That's what I'm curious about.
He's going to be giving DDTs in DDT.
David's delicious DDTs. How about that? But no, you are right about New Japan. You are. They have a lot of young stars that are developing right now. Shota Umino, Tsuji, quite a few others as well. The future looks fine for them. They got Naito as champion right now, who of course behind Okada is the biggest draw in the company. So it's okay, they'll figure out something. I'm absolutely certain of. I do want to say something real quick. Firstly, Akira Tozawa never wrestled in New Japan. It was Dragon Gate. But secondly, if they sign him on a deal which is like $3 million a year, which is, 2 to 3 million is genuinely what I reckon Okada's going to get from wherever he goes. No way is he becoming a jobber. Like, they're using him as a main event star. They're using him as an AJ Styles. The AJ Styles thing's going to happen again. But you are also right. He'll have to change his style. Like, he will. That same style doesn't work in WWE because it doesn't work for their audience. All of Okada's best matches are longer matches in front of a crowd which has a long attention span. In AEW, we already saw in his match against Danielson that was a little bit of an issue. But in WWE, I think that issue would be a lot more, a lot worse. So I don't think they'd be doing those longer matches. So I do agree, from a style perspective, AEW is definitely the better match compared to WWE on that one. But let's talk about AEW signing, should we? Let's talk about AEW's roster. In fact, before we do that, we got a couple of comments that I've got to get to.
Show my mom.
I absolutely will. We got Gaming with Daniel saying, I believe Okada always wanted to wrestle at WrestleMania. He has said that. Number one, Superfly wants to see Okada in TNA. Ignacio saying, Okada is not worth that much to WWE's fan base. And he'll be overpaid. To be fair, he's been one of the most underpaid top stars for, years now. So I think he deserves to get a little bit of an overpay to, even things out. We got Laurie Taylor saying, Happy Friday, WR crew. Happy Friday. We got Shard dissing Tony Khan. We'll just skip over that. There's just... It's an Outlaw Mud show in our comments, apparently. Let's now move on, and let's move on to talk.
Yet on this show.
Let's move on and let's talk. Let's talk about. This is what I think is AEW's biggest issue, right? When they started in 2019, they signed a lot of people because obviously they needed to build a roster. Yeah. And when Dynamite first started, they still didn't have enough people, right? They still had to sign people. The pandemic then happened, they signed more people, and it started in about 2021 to get a good size for the roster. It started to, make sense, and they had a good size roster. Then, a few free agents became available, such as, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, CM Punk, among others, right? Malachi Black, there was a lot of names.
Page, Keith Lee.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of absolutely great names, and these names...
Ruby Soho.
Paul White.
Paul White. Well, it's interesting.
These names,
a new company wouldn't. It's weird how they didn't have a roster.
Well, can I talk first, please?
Sorry, I couldn't help you. I just want to say Paul White.
I'm completely thrown off my point now. It's ruined the reel as well, bro.
Keep going. We got this on the reel.
I'm gonna be here editing until 2 a.m. But no. So in 2021, they started. Yeah, they had a decent roster size. They then signed the likes of Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, all these names who they should have signed. It was the correct decision to sign. Why? Because they're big names who'd improve the product, right? They should have signed them. But then it got to the point where, I mean, there are too many people to showcase. And instead of saying, well, okay, we'll showcase these people, and those other people will just, keep maybe on Rampage or smaller shows. Instead of doing that, what they did was, once every 4 weeks, you'll see these talents, unless you're one of the major names, and between then you won't see anybody. And since then, it's gotten a lot worse. Since then, the likes of Miro have become those names you can't even get on TV. And it's just, I mean, even House of Black for the longest time couldn't get on television until AEW Collision started. But even with an extra 2-hour show every week, they still have too many talents, right? The roster is too big. They're bringing in Will Ospreay, great signing. Maybe they're bringing in Kazuchika Okada, again, would be a great signing. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but the fact is their roster's too bloated. And what's the one thing which a lot of people who, try and get into AEW are saying, it's that they don't know who all the wrestlers are, and when they watch it, they, watch it for a few weeks, and they still see more random people popping up every week, okay? You can't get these characters over when you're showing them once a month. It doesn't make sense. The roster needs to be about a third of that roster, to be honest with you, needs to... I don't want to say cut, because I really would never hope for, cuts or anything like that. But about a third of that roster needs to go to Ring of Honor and help the younger stars develop. Treat that as a developmental brand and really, help those younger stars. And just make Ring of Honor a better product as well. Then it won't feel like it's just like, jobbers thing. There'll actually be some interesting wrestlers down there which aren't quite on the level of, AEW Dynamite and Collision standard at this point in time. They would have been in 2019, 2020, but not anymore. But instead now, put them in Ring of Honor, help them develop young talents. And if they're not happy there, be like, and they ask for their release, give it to them. I mean, Clark, what's your thoughts on this? And just to be clear, before you say that, I'm not talking about any big name here. I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about, the ones who are on every month or so.
I got to admit to you, Ben, I think you make a great point there. I thought Office Season 1, when Steve Carell was the only famous one in the ensemble cast, was way better than when they added Ed Helms and had all that extra talent for the next 7 or 9 seasons that they did, broke all those records. I couldn't
Did
agree
The
more.
Office have 40 characters in The Office? If so, I think it would be a bit harder for them to get famous.
Whoa. It's called an ensemble cast, and it's not the point either. But what I would present to you is, and I've presented this one in the chat here on our own Wrestling Republic platform. In the chat, I presented it earlier. I'll present it again. If you were creating a team of turtles for turtle racing, and I don't know if you're familiar with turtle racing, but there's 15 races per event, right? There's 15 races. You get 2 turtles per team per event in those 15 races. 10 turtles per event. So you're looking at 5 teams that get to enter 2 turtles per event in turtle racing. Mm-hmm. You have the financial ability to sign the 50 fastest turtles in the world. The best athletes, the fastest ones. These are real grinders, the best turtles in the game. But here's the thing. At every event, you can only race 30 of them. You can't race all 50, but you can afford all 50. And the other side, those 20 that you do sit in case of injuries, or, turtle racing is a pretty physical sport. I don't know if you guys have tuned in, but
Tonight, Raw Mud Show
are there in case of injury, and guess who they can't race for? The other
their rivals, yeah.
And that's not even what directly AEW's done, because guess what? These performers can work on the indies.
They can't. Most of the roster can't anymore. That's not true.
I hear you. I can't name one WWE superstar that's wrestled on the indies outside of the All Japan appearance this year. Shinsuke Nakamura. There's like 3 in the last year at best. And we had an entire pay-per-view called Forbidden Door. We've seen John Moxley over at multiple independent events. Me and Carter watched Daniel Garcia main event PWG not that many months ago. They're allowed to wrestle elsewhere and make a living elsewhere in a way that elsewhere doesn't allow. So what I would say is, if you can build a talent roster in an avenue where you can compete against the big dogs, against the big guys, because you can't quite compete in viewership yet. Not yet. No, you haven't been exposed enough. Too young of a company. Yes. Is the roster inflated? Sure. To hardcore fans like us who have already watched it. That would be my second point, by the way. How in the world, if you're a finger quotes new fan, can you be aware of the fact that the roster is inflated with talent? If
No,
you
that's
don't
not
already
the
know
point.
Talent.
I explained it to you already. New
Which
fans are
new
turning
fans?
it on, and they don't understand who the names are because the names are different every single week. So they watch it for 3 weeks, and they're still finding out 5 new names each episode.
Oh, I got you. So they got to do the 50-50 booking. Is that what the move is?
What's that got to do with anything?
No.
Just put the same talents on air every week.
No, that way it's the same names every week, right? As then they can just trade wins every week, and they can, give us the spoon, right? Airplane. Here you go, kids. And, that's a choice always, but like at the end of the day, to knock talent stacking makes less than no sense. No talent is being hurt by this in any way other than their ceiling potential wise charismatically, because every single talent's making a living in a way that on the independent scene, or unless you're getting pushed by WWE or TNA or New Japan, those are your only choices. It's not that huge of an industry. This isn't the territory days. There's not 15 places to go. And saddling up on your own booking, your own health insurance, and all of that stuff is a garbage idea in comparison to being on a roster where you may not appear on television enough. By comparison,
well, they don't get health insurance there either. But
no, but they can afford it because they're paying.
They can. No, listen, that's a good point. But here's the thing: you sign a 5-year deal with them for a decent wage, right? The first year you're shown on TV, brilliant, brilliant.
In the world signs a 5-year deal in wrestling. There's not a 5-year deal that exists. There's no way unless you're a Hall of Famer.
Okay, Clark, I'd fact check yourself on that. Nearly every AEW deal is 5 years.
So
literally almost every deal. So I'd fact check yourself on that.
You're telling me right now that Julia Hart signed for 5 at what, 75 grand?
I actually believe she recently has signed a 5-year deal. Yeah,
5-year deal.
Clark, look up the contract dates.
What are the details? No options.
I don't think anybody knows. I don't even think the dirtiest dirt sheet in Dirt Sheet Entertainment know that.
5-year deal is otherworldly. You don't even see that in sports. WWE doesn't sign anybody for 5 years. You're looking at rollover deals on a 1 or a 2-year calendar at best.
Chelsea is very good at doing 5-year deals lately.
It's actually 8-year deals that Chelsea are very, very good at doing. Chaos is even worse.
That's the height of professional sports, which is not who we're talking about when it comes to the bloated half of the AEW.
I do want to fact check this. The most WWE contracts are 4 years, 4 to 5 years. Most AEW deals are 5 years. Okay, that's actually, I'll give you a little bit of an insight there. We're getting a little bit dirty-esque, but that's actually what it is. But you can look it up later,
Clark. We didn't
Clark.
report anybody's specific contract here. We didn't report anybody's specific contract, and not only that, we don't know it because we sit here and watch the dirt sheet speculate on Drew McIntyre being a free agent for the last year and a half, and we don't know how long his original deal was. How long was it?
How many injuries have they added time on for?
How many more years has Brock signed for, or what's Roman's deal look like? That's what I would ask. Speaking of being fact checked, just saying. And at the same time, you can look at AEW's roster as being too loaded, and that's totally fine. And does it affect booking? Sure. Is it bothersome? Maybe. Is it a bad business strategy? Absolutely not. You can compete in that area. You need to talent stack and compete. You absolutely do. If your goal is to compete with the WWE, you must compete with them in the free agency department. You absolutely must.
Do you know what you must do if you're a company who's, losing their viewership and is failing to get new viewership? What you must do is listen to people who watch for the first time and their concerns. And what's their concern? Their concern is that too many people are on, so it's hard to get into the product. And it feels like it's just aimed at hardcore fans. That's what you must do if you want to grow. But we are gonna have to.
You'd have to have the talent to be able to accomplish that.
But yeah, but you don't need to have. Their roster's bigger than
talent?
WWE's roster, including NXT.
So you're calling
Like,
them
it's-
a ball hog. They're ball hogs.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Like I said, I'd put that talent in Ring of Honor and have them help the younger talent and have Ring of Honor be a real, true developmental brand. And yeah, have those, veterans.
Brian Cage and
help
all the great
develop.
talent that they have operating in Ring of Honor.
I mean, they're barely in. I mean, Brian Cage.
In Ring of Honor.
I mean, they're barely doing
talent
anything.
on that roster that we complain about being on that roster.
Yeah, but have you seen Ring of Honor? Like, all the champions aren't on Ring of Honor. The likes of Brian Cage has defended the 6-man tag titles a few times, to be fair. But none of the other champions have appeared on that, really.
But it has zero direct effect on viewership at the end of the day. It has none. If the rosters are
Well, it
loaded,
does. If new
what?
fans are saying they're struggling to get into it,
how
there's
do
too
new
many
fans know
wrestlers.
the roster's loaded if they're new?
I've explained it to you 5 times in this argument, right? What they turn it on, they watch it, they're like, okay, first week, great, I understand who people are. Now they watch it next week. Oh, I didn't see those guys last week. Oh, I didn't see them either. They see all these people. Okay, well, next week I'll now know who everybody is. They tune in the 3rd week, and it's all new people again. They don't understand what it is, and it's overwhelming.
How could you know who's on TV if it's new to you?
That's my point. After 3 weeks of watching it every week, they still don't know.
So that now we're talking about people that have put it in 3 weeks, so they're not new anymore.
Well, no, they're... Come on, man.
Well, I mean,
come
they're
on.
watching for
Come
weeks.
on.
They
Even the
clearly
Instagram comments
giving
are
the
saying
show
it's a
crap.
word which I can't say now. But we got a few comments here. People want to hear Carty's take, so we'll hear that in just a second. We've got Shadu saying they need more identity. Number 1 Superfly saying the AEW roster is too bloated. He said it for the past year. He's suggesting Ring of Honor 2. Anthony saying he's very pro-Turtle. Bobby Petito saying that they should send Lee Moriarty and Kip Sabian to New Japan and send Marina Shafir to Stardom. Ignacio says, I would say that people that get neglected on the roster would rather be on TV with a story when they can get TV time and cut a promo so they can sell themselves and maybe sell some of their merch. I mean, that's a good point too. If you're sitting in catering for 4 years, your worth's going to be, less after your deal's up. But I mean, that's not even the point I'm trying to make here. My point is purely it's hurting AEW in terms of
shows on TV.
But no, okay. Even when you go compare it to Marvel right now, what's the complaints everybody's saying? They're saying they're doing too many new TV shows with too many new characters, so it's overwhelming for everybody, right? And it's not a perfect comparison.
Rolling in cash.
Well,
every performer on those shows are rolling in money.
Well, that's true, yeah. But
like Scrooge McDuck, diving in.
What?
Just
Shard saying you're being petty.
what do you mean that, Shad?
Anthony agrees with you. Carl Fletcher should be on Ring of Honor TV. Bobby Petito saying agreeing with Marvel. Bobby's laughing. Yeah, Marvel's problem is quantity over quality. That's my point. There's too much quantity. And they can't be quality. They can't be too much. They can't be quality when there's too much quantity, right? They two are like that. They're joined at the hip, right? Quality and quantity are joined at the hip. You can't have one without the other, and it's a balancing act. AEW have got it all wrong right now, but
brand split on the other side.
Well, maybe they should do a brand split, actually. I think that might have helped them. Because at least then, well, you'd hope that you could watch Dynamite without having to watch Collision. And then at least it's easier for new viewers to get involved. But, Carter, I want to hear your take on this one. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, Ben, you could replace Clark, but the exact same pro AEW opinion is going to be coming out. No, I mean... I will say this. Cardi Cornette sent me a text. He said, you make sure you let everyone know that the billionaire just wants as many action figures as he possibly can to play with. But
Spoiling your Tony in his basement.
Ben, you mentioned quality. I go to a very factually website, Cage Match. Who's got the Cage Match ratings? I believe I was sharing them, and if we're going quality, and you're talking Marvel movie industry, you're going Rotten Tomatoes. Who's got better Cage Match ratings? I believe, but no, AEW is the challenger brand. You go to the challenger brand to see things you don't see in the other brand. Now, that being said, as a business owner, seeing a big roster, it's, you saw what happened with WCW. That's not a good thing when you have too many people in any type of business for profitability. As a wrestling fan, though, I don't care who's losing money. I want to see, and you know what, Cardi Cornette, he's not here. I don't care. I like Outlaw Mud shows. I think Tony should buy CZW. I think he should put CZW and Ring of Honor on ESPN Plus. I think he should be doing more of what he's doing. I think he should continue to poach from AAA and from New Japan. I think he should be hacking up DDT and TJPW. And because, Ben, this AEW's on cable here. It's kind of hard to stay up to watch New Japan. So if he brings someone from New Japan over here, I don't have to stay up till 3 a.m. to watch them. So I think it's great that the roster's bloated as a fan, personally.
Well, it actually is great for us hardcore fans. But the fact of the matter is, AEW is not going to survive to be, not going to survive as long as WWE does, right? Because it's got to survive after Tony Khan. Let's not forget that. It's not going to survive to that point if they just keep throwing money at talent. They have all this talent, but they have no casual viewers. They have no, new audience coming in, right? AEW crowds are getting smaller. Fact. AEW's viewership is getting smaller at a rate which is significant. Sorry, is lowering at a rate which is a lot more drastic than WWE, and the rest of television is dropping. Fact. Right?
What about Cage Match, Ben?
What about Cage Match? I mean, that's the exact point I think Tony Khan's saying, isn't it? If it's going good on Cage Match, that's great. And to be fair, right, I want to say this real quick. It is also important to make the hardcore fans happy too, because you've got to keep those, because I said this before and I'll say it again, a hardcore fan on average will obviously give you more money than a casual fan will in terms of merch and all the stuff like that. So you need to keep them happy. So looking at Cage Match isn't a bad idea. But pacing everything on Cage Match is where the issue comes in. Totally. But it's a good snapshot. It's a good snapshot.
What are your thoughts on WrestleMania 4? They were doing great in their 4th year. That tournament, it killed it. People loved it.
I need to see the Cage Match ratings before I can
it's low.
My own opinion.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I think that one might be rightfully low. But but this isn't I want to make something clear quickly. This isn't an anti-AEW. I love AEW. I absolutely do. But I also want AEW to be around for as long as I'm around. So because of that, they need to, they need to get new fans in. And if that's the issue, that, people are watching it for the first time, and that's why they're struggling to get into it, then that's a big issue. It's a huge issue. In fact, we're going to do an Instagram poll about that issue. We're going to ask people, and I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of replies of people who, just are anti-AEW, but we're going to ask people who've seen AEW before and haven't watched more of it, what their issues with it are, and that'll be certainly an interesting one to see. But Chaos, you've been sitting there, you've been listening to this Outlaw Mud show on this podcast for the last 20 minutes now. Come on, let's hear your thoughts. What is the host of Take It to the Table, the head of the table, Chaos? What's your thoughts on this?
Damn, I actually was wondering if I was ever going to get a take, because you and Clark were going on and on. God damn. Anyway, so everyone's again just pitching or just trying to get on AEW's back regarding is it bloated or anything. I just did a quick Google and see and check the roster sizes of both companies. WWE currently has 233 people on their roster. AEW only has 201. Yet people are saying
is that including the NIL?
No.
Oh, it's
No,
not.
it's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So if you do include NIL, then obviously that's even way more.
No, that will be way up.
Exactly. So everyone's getting on WWE, and yet even though like WWE has got 3 shows, I guess 4 if you count Level Up, but AEW also has 3 shows and also has Ring of Honor. I don't think it's about the bloatedness of the roster. It's just obviously how they're utilizing certain people, and especially where certain people have had better success elsewhere. And they're not getting it here. People thinking other people are taking their roles. It's just management. That's all it is. I don't think it's all about bloatedness. And like I said earlier on, if there's someone that is like that's huge, a big name, like if you get Monet or Okada or Danielson, Cole, it don't matter how bloated your roster is, snatch them up because you only get one chance for those. So yeah, and also another thing as well, like obviously TK doesn't believe in releasing people. He just wants to keep them out until their contract runs out or whatever. It's not really about. I don't believe in making cuts or
and just to be clear, nor do I. Just to be clear, that's not what I was. Yeah,
fair enough. I understand. I just want to make that clear on my end as well. Just the fact if he's actually got a bottomless pit of money, why not have them like just chilling, make that free paycheck? I would be fine with that instead of, risking my life every day, possibly getting injured and whatnot. Just collect the paycheck. You might not be getting used, but everyone's getting paid instead of going wrestle for Clive's backyard wrestling, making half of what you're making in AEW. So yeah, it's not really I don't think it's all the bloatedness as I said before, like the roster is way smaller compared to WWE's. It's just obviously they just need to manage it more and that of the rightful people that needs to be in there. So yeah, I don't think it's bloated. Everyone's getting paid at the end of the day, and obviously he just lets contracts run out better than being released. So unless you do something mad, but so yeah, I don't. I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet because you guys took too much airtime. So yeah, that's why.
No, it's okay. We'll go an hour. We'll go an hour now anyway, including TNA. But I do also want to point one thing out about your list you've had. The list includes managers and on-screen personnel, which is why it's so high.
If you're thinking of,
I found the exact list you looked at because I found that number
included.
But yeah, no. But the thing is about that roster size, about half of those are developmental stars. They're NXT stars, right? And we know that a lot of those won't make it to the main roster. They won't. We're not showcasing that many stars on Raw each week. Whereas AEW's 200, at least a few times a year, all of those 200 will appear on their flagship show. And that's when it gets, confusing for, new viewers and stuff like that. I mean, it's different if you were using them as a jobber, but they're not. They're treating them, as big matches. You're like, Matt Sydal, Chris Jericho this week on Rampage. Tune in. It's a huge match. No, it's not. What's Sydal done in the last, 3 years?
I'm not that bloated if Sydal's no good.
What?
They can't be that bloated if Sydal's no good.
What are you on about? But, by the way, I'm actually a fan of Sydal. I'm not dissing him. I'm dissing the booking of him. I actually do like him.
But it's also a good thing that at least he has options instead of running the same people every week. At least, I think TK treats AEW as a little personal toy box.
According to what?
Screw the fans!
And that's an issue. That's an issue. He's playing universe mode. He's downloaded all the community creations. I am only joking, by the way, guys, on this one. I've sounded a lot more anti-AW in this rant than I actually have.
Really?
I'm a big AW fan. That's why I'm concerned about this. They need to get new viewers. That is the piece of feedback which, for some reason, Clark's become a politician and is ignoring the feedback which all these people are giving, saying that they struggle to get into it because of the amount of wrestlers. Can't even read some of these Instagram comments out, but we're just gonna have to wait and see.
I want to read out his one. Check out this nonsense.
But Ignacio saying, by the way, Chaos, stop dodging me. Give the Republic fans what they want.
What nauseating reviews about like just back in my day? We used to grapple and do chokeholds. Like we ain't got time for that. I'm not dodging you. I'm just saving the fans the nauseum and the pain. But when you're ready to come back and stop coming out with excuses, you will be more than welcome to the table, and then you get chewed out again by Soul. It's all good.
Chaos! Get the tables!
Chaos
Also, we need to
does
see
it
the
right.
David
You
Ignacio
can
debate.
only hear about so many headlocks.
A 30-minute match full of headlocks and chin locks and flipping. Nah, yeah, I'm good, bro. This ain't the 1700s.
Let's now get on and let's talk not about the 1700s, but instead about last night, because TNA Impact, it was back, it returned, and it opened with a super fun 6-man scramble match in the X Division between Kushida, Jake Something, Laredo Kid, Vikingo, Trey Miguel, and Mike Bailey, who, of course, Carter, we know you're a huge fan of, and that was a great way to open the show. A little bit short for my liking, and of course, it had the stupid video game-esque waiting at ringside to go in spots like every 6-man tag team match does in every company, because it's impossible to do it without it, to be honest with you. Well, very difficult too. Then we had an Ask by Elegance promo package where she, slowly started to introduce herself to the audience, and this has gotten a lot of criticism online already, but I'm actually happy she's developing a character, and I'm interested to see where it goes. Xia Brookside then faced Tasha Steelz, and she just proved why she's so technically sound. Genuinely, the fact that they have Xia Brookside on a multi-year deal is huge for TNA. They still need to kind of give her a bit more of a character and make fans care about her more, because at times the crowd were not quite into this one. But, I mean, listen, they've got some real potential in Xia Brookside. Then we had the Grizzled Young Veterans against Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian. And I had an issue with this, and my issue was that the best thing about the Grizzled Young Veterans has always been that they come down to the ring with a mic in Zach Gibson's hand, and he cuts a promo on the fans, and it's typical heel work. It's as old as time, but it works, and it works when they do it every single time. Why aren't they doing it in TNA? Seriously, why? I don't understand at all, but they did get the victory against Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young, and then Kazarian turned heel. Great shock heel turn there, and I'm excited to see where that goes. That was clearly the highlight of the segment. We didn't see Moose. Moose didn't come out, but it was a pre-recorded segment from the system. That was solid, but I've said it before, and it's the same for Jordan Grace too, because she had just only had a backstage segment. When you crown a new champion, first week on TV, they should be out there in that ring to make it feel like a big deal. Your title's changed hands. It's a new era, new landscape, new champion. They should be kicking off that show. I mean, Jordan Grace beat one of the best, women's wrestlers in the world in Trinity. Why didn't they make a big deal out of that on this show? I don't know. Nick Nemeth delivered a great promo. No surprise. Steve Macklin came out. I'm interested to see where the feud between those two goes. Steve Macklin has improved so much, and they built a solid foundation for their feud in this. And then the main event, a TV match of the year contender between Josh Alexander and Will Ospreay. It only just didn't get 5 stars on our scale, and that was because it lacked a story going into the match, in my opinion. But it was really solid episode of TNA Impact. A great foundation that they can now build upon, and I'm certainly looking forward to watching it again next week. But Carter, you were there for a lot of this. What did you think about it?
Yes, sir, Ben. So, a little disclaimer to the fans. I attended Snake Eyes, and then I watched Hard to Kill on TV because I was traveling. Me and O'Connor, actually, we were on the same flight. No, we actually weren't. But no, and the card in person was about 14 matches, and then this one you said it was 5. I have the cage match open on my other screen, Ben, because of course.
Yeah.
But no, and on our you mentioned Jordan and Trinity had a rematch on what we saw, but my personal
don't spoil it. That's next week.
Oh, is that next week? Okay. And then also, I believe you're going to see a 6-man tag match with Okada and Moose. I'm not spoiling anything.
That it's confirmed, but yeah.
I'm guessing that's going to be on TV. But I have to say, my one disappointment was Alexander Ospreay in person. I went with 2 friends who had never been to a wrestling event. Don't watch it on TV. Totally just green. they were blown away. I mean, I wish I don't know what's going on with TV deals and stuff. I'm kind of new to picture-in-picture, but I wish that stayed full screen the whole time because the crowd was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And there was a point, there was a lady behind me who was a photographer, and everyone was cheering for the table, and she's like, "No, we don't need a table. We do not need a table." And then they pulled it out and they had that table spot. And she's like, "Okay, I'm good. That actually made sense." So, I mean, honestly, Ben, I love Indie-rific, Speed, PWG, Rosita, Rec Center booking. And that was a perfect match to me. And the opener too I believe it was the opener in person as well, or it was very early on the card, and it was so much fun. I mean, we know from 2K you start out hot and you finish hot, and I thought that was just a perfectly well booked card. Cardi Cornette is extremely excited for Nick Nemeth. He told me he has the perfect look. He looks exactly like how he looks in the territory days when Mr. Cornette used to work in Tupelo in Mississippi. And no, it's just, I mean, it's exciting. I thought TNA started out great, and the crowd was hot. I mean, the TNA chants were loud. It was louder and fuller in person than it was on TV. I'll say that much.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly they need to mic up the crowd a bit better then.
Mm-hmm.
But
it was very active. It was a great event.
I really wish they did then, actually, because I thought this entire show they were a little. They weren't bad. It wasn't a bad crowd on TV, but if it was louder in person, I really wish they mic'd up the crowd a bit better. But you just said it there, Osprey, not Osprey, yes, Osprey, and I'm getting tired. Osprey and Alexander. You're too casual. Not even casual. They've never seen wrestling before. They got interested. They enjoyed it. They found out Will Ospreay now is signing to AEW, and they were like, "Well, I can't wait to see him." So they'll tune into AEW. They'll get to see him wrestle. They'll tune in for the next 3 weeks and won't see him once. But now let's move on. I'm sorry, that was a low blow. That was a low blow. That's a low blow. But we got a few comments here. We got Bobby Petito saying that he'd like to see TNA bring in Lizzie Evo. Yes, please. She'd be perfect for them. Michael Oku too. Lana Austin and Spike Trivet. Well, we all know my thoughts on Spike Trivet. There's a photo of me on Progress Wrestling's Instagram story. Well, it's not there anymore, but there was about what I thought about Spike Trivet. One Superfly is saying that he still enjoys Jake something asking what his name was. And Bobby Petito is excited for Nick Nemeth versus Steve Macklin. I am too. It's a good time to be a fan of total non-stop action. Impact Wrestling, but chaos. What did you think about the show?
Yeah, it was very solid, very fun. I definitely love the aesthetic that they have. Of the with the ramp and the stage and everything. Definitely had that old school feel. The opening match was solid as well, very X Division E. All right, let me just give you some backstage insight of this. I have not watched TNA since the Hulk Hogan era.
Wow.
That was a good era.
I don't know about that, but
I'm kidding.
I watched it. I missed all the aces and eights and all that. Impact and Anthem, all that. I missed all that, and GFW Global Force. So I missed all of that.
Oh
stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a nice little calling back to old school for me. Obviously they didn't bring the 6 rings, the 6-sided ring back, but obviously there was always complaints that not every wrestler liked it. But anyway, the show was solid as well. Definitely production wise, I feel like already it's better than Impact. Every time I spoke to someone regarding TNA's programming or the way they do the shows, it's always very, especially when it comes to pay-per-views, it's very glitchy and a bit rough.
Yeah.
This one, I know it's a TV show, but it just feels more they're on it this time, and I didn't hear any issues about Hard to Kill either. So, and the promo with Nick Nemeth as well, it's one of those typical promos that you get when someone has actually left a big promotion to come over here and they're scared and it's a new world and all this kind of stuff. So it was very generic, but I'm interested to see. Wasn't sure who this Macklin guy was. So I researched and I was just like, oh, you used to be part of them. Okay. But
the Forgotten Sons who are now forgotten.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, fair enough. He was
Hopefully.
part of the crossfire. It wasn't him that did that stuff, but still, it's all good. So,
Yeah.
but I'm sure he did better stuff in TNA. But I mean, just a good starting point for Nick Nemeth. You know, he's actually starting from the beginning. He's not just walking in trying to get a world title shot. And the Will Ospreay and Josh Alexander match. It's Will Ospreay. What do you expect? It was absolutely amazing. This is my first match watching from beginning to end with Josh Alexander, and I feel like that is probably illegal. That I should be. I'm pretty sure he's had plenty of bangers beforehand. So yeah, I'm very excited to see where they go from here. I do agree with the sound. They need to sort out the acoustics or relocate because it felt like they were in the Thunderdome or like back when they were in the PC arena with like just a couple people around the ring. It felt very empty at certain times, and it didn't have no meaning, especially when it was the opener match. It was way better than what the crowd was giving. It was too quiet at times. But yeah, other than that, very solid. I am actually looking forward to adding TNA to my watching, even though I already got WWE and TNA and AEW on my list. But let's see where it goes. I think they're gonna go. I think this year is gonna be very good for them. But you're not getting Okada. Just want to say that.
Oh no, I don't think they are either, but I would love it if they did. But last but certainly and not least, Clark, what was your thoughts on this latest episode of TNA Impact?
Well, so I'm a longtime TNA watcher, and personally, I thought it was quaint. It was cute over at the Palms in Vegas, right? You know, we've seen a lot of shows ran at the, T-Mobile Arena and the actual real arenas, MGM over on the Strip, right? Off the Strip is nice too. It's almost as good in some people's eyes, and I thought they did a great job. Now, I don't think there's any room on TNA's roster for
come on, let's talk about Impact.
He basically does the same thing as Nick Nemeth, and it'd just be stepping on his toes, and there's no reason to have both of them. I don't get it. I don't get why he's there. It's just a one-off appearance with hardly any booking heading in. The rest of the show I truly enjoyed. Xia Brookside put on a heck of a match with Tasha Steelz. I loved that. It's one of the best women's divisions of wrestling. In all seriousness, it's one of my favorite shows weekly to watch. I love TNA. I think it's awesome. The tapings I thought were well done out of Vegas. I think it's cool that they go to Vegas. I can only imagine those events are fun to be at. I know Carter was there. I wanted to join him there. It's not that far away over here from Southern California. At the end of the day, it was a fun kind of relaunch event ish. I feel like if you've seen the pay-per-view, that was the true relaunch event for the TNA brand, despite the fact that the announcement was made before. I think that was the Hard to Kill was the real relaunch of TNA for an opening television episode out of the gates. I had no issue with it, and I genuinely do not have complaints. I thought it was well wrestled. I thought it was well booked. And I agree with Carter because he was in the crowd, and I've heard the firsthand account that the crowd was on fire for it. And so I'm inclined to go with that because I did hear the earlier complaints about, maybe the microphones being quiet for the crowd or not being able to hear the crowd necessarily on the broadcast. I didn't feel like I had that problem last night, but maybe in the future, a little louder doesn't matter. I would imagine that the building was loud if you're there. And those are two separate things. Televised wrestling and arena wrestling are two different entertainment experiences. And I think that's part of the deal. I think TNA is well on their way to being another challenger brand, which is nothing but positive.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And then, there's somewhere to go for those poor AEW wrestlers who are going to be out of contract. But we've got a couple of comments. Slightly off topic, but Bobby Petito wants to see Mr. Amazing in NXT. That's a nice note to end the show on. I'm a Mr. Amazing guy.
Yes.
Clark's a Mr. Amazing guy. If you haven't seen his interview on NXT Off the Air a couple of weeks ago, make sure you check it out.
He's the top
and
one.
X Division, TNA X Division. Actually, that's a very,
We're
very
talking
solid show indeed. Shard wants me to cut your mic, Clark.
Should have done it a time ago. What's wrong with you? No, I'm joking. I'm playing.
I muted myself at one point.
I can't control it.
I can believe you.
But that's a good note to end the show on, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening to, a half an hour long debate today as well. I didn't expect much. I'm going to be honest, I kind of did expect it. But it was a very fun show. If you liked it on Spotify, please give us a cheeky 5 stars. If you are on another platform, if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, follow, all those good stuff. We're here every day for you guys, usually 8 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk SmackDown. Thank you, Clark. Thank you, Clark. Thank you, Carter. And thank you, Chaos. And we will be back tomorrow. Peace.